Yeah. All right. Says I'm live, King. Awesome. We want to welcome you guys to another Heavy Talk. This is Heavy Talk 8. We have some really dope guests this Saturday. Thank you guys for joining us. All those returning guests that have been with us in previous talks, thanks for coming through. Thanks for your love and support. Welcome to all the new crew members that signed up today or this weekend. I'm glad to have you guys here. You're in for a big treat. We have some really dope guests today. We have myself speaking with Amir Boyd. We also have Kirsten and Jason Reddick, and the incomparable Sharifa Murdock and Jason Jeter. Let's see here. So, guys, I want you to just bring a warm welcome to a mentor, a friend, just a all-around uncle. He's actually a vampire, but we'll talk about that later on in the talk. You know what I'm saying? So give it up, guys, for Amir Boyd. Welcome.
What up, bro? What's up, everybody? Thanks for having me here. Heavy Sounds Lab. This is awesome. What's good?
This is dope. The comments are coming in already. Somebody came in and said the GOAT. So this is gonna be dope, man. You got a new look, man, new beard, I see.
Yeah, I'm staying safe, bro. Whatever that means nowadays. I mean, it's a lot going on, but I'm trying to stay out the way. So, and I'm out here in LA, so things haven't opened up out here. So yeah, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? Just looking like Brutus right about now.
Nah. It's all good. Yo, let's get right into it, man. So, we got a lot of different crew members from all over the place. So I really want to get into like your background and where you're from. I want to start from the core and then let's expand out.
Okay, so here's a fun fact. I think you may know, but a whole bunch of people don't know. I was actually born in Detroit, Michigan, but I can't claim Detroit because I was only there 13 months of my life. The crime had gotten really bad there once they closed down the plants and all that stuff. So my peoples, they moved to Suitland, Maryland, and I grew up there. Then we moved out to the suburbs, and then I spent my adult life living in DC. And I moved to Atlanta 2003, maybe? Yeah, around 2003. And I've been in LA for the last 3 years.
Dope. So you moved from the DMV, is that the area?
Yeah.
Oh, the area. So tell us about that. So you moved from DC to Atlanta. So 2003, like that's white hot scorching Atlanta. Like how'd that come about?
All right. So I went to Morgan State in Baltimore, Maryland. And I actually was a history major, secondary education. I wanted to be a teacher. However, I started throwing parties when I was in college, and literally throwing them in my house. And I realized that I had a niche for promoting, marketing. I draw my own flyers up, go out and pass them out, and everybody be in my house. Or then when I moved to another location, I just realized that was my niche, throwing these parties. So I got, once I got out of college, I didn't graduate, but I left college, and a friend of mine was working at the radio station in DC. Shout out to Tony Reds, who just passed away, one of the homies that I started with in radio in DC. But she said they were hiring, and I went up there. She was like, yo, I know you're going to get the job, so just come on here and apply. And at the time, I was working at the MCI Center. I was working at Giant. Like, I was in between it, you know what I'm saying, trying to figure it out. And this was 1999. I started working at the radio station in DC, WPGC. A lot of great people. Tigger, Donnie Simpson, Thea Mitchum, who's, one of the heads of radio, iHeart, Osei, just a whole bunch of people. Left there and then went to another radio station in Baltimore that they had started. And the reason Thea had gotten her first PD gig. She took me with her, and she felt like I knew the market already, and she felt like I was the best person for the job. So I ended up being her assistant promotions director. In being there, just using my relationships I had in radio in DC, still kind of just doing my thing. I managed a street team for that radio station. Radio station went off the air. Prior to going off the air, Frank Ski in Baltimore, in Atlanta, used to be syndicated to this radio station. He would always go back and tell the GM in Atlanta, yo, y'all need to hire Amir. Y'all need to get somebody like him on your street team, yada, yada, yada. And then I ended up in Atlanta. The radio station went off the air in Baltimore March 7th, 2003. I moved to Atlanta March 27th of 2003. And it's kind of been on since. So yeah, that's how I ended up in Atlanta.
That's actually dope. So a lot of our crew members, they're looking to get into different fields. Like I myself actually moved to Atlanta. A lot of people, they want to do music. They want to get into the entertainment game. So last week we had Ray Rizzi. He talked about how the referee is still in the game. You're running with the players and everything. So your career is a very unique one. So like, how does somebody even get into that lane? We have a lot of people that have artists, or they just like, yeah, I just want to get into the music game. And you mentioned PD, so like that's a program director, correct?
Yeah.
So cool. So like to go into how does somebody get into that? And
I mean, let's speak somewhat prior to what's going on now, right?
Sure.
I don't know how this is going to pan out when it's all over with. And I mean the pandemic, right? But prior to then, and relationships, you know what I'm saying? And I know what worked for me. What worked for me was always being on, right? Always like not stepping up or being available because something is available, but being like that all the time, never letting nobody be able to question your work ethic. So getting in, a lot of people were interns, you know what I'm saying? That was always the way to get in. And it still is. But again, I'm speaking as if we don't know, the rest of this world gonna figure it out. But being an intern is usually the way to get in. But I know people who have sacrificed a lot or worked for free, damn near, like myself, to get in. When you getting in, if you know anything about anything, you're not gonna be making no money. So you're not doing it for money. You're doing it for passion. So, you know what I'm saying? I've always been passionate about everything that I'm involved in. And, you know this, and Jeter knows this, Kirsten knows this. Like if I put on the flag, if I put on the jersey, I'm wearing that. Like we outside together. And I've always kind of had my own drive, through my passion.
Nah, for sure. Like, I'm glad you mentioned passion, because one thing I did learn from you. For you guys out there, I was fortunate enough to like go on like a radio tour with Amir. So how my interest point was the camera, right? And being creative. And I just watched the way he would work the room. He'll be like, yo, man, you don't never know until you ask. And lo and behold, I was kind of recluse, like, nah, I might talk to this person or may not. But you see these people all the time. Like it's to this day now, I still see people that I met on that journey. So like, tell us, how important is it to maintain relationships?
I mean, I wouldn't even. They're so valuable. I can go back to, when I met, Jason and Clay and all of them before I was even, working with them. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Um, or I can go back to, the whole Frank Ski thing, or I can take it even a step further back to the original relationship of the young lady who um, is my daughter's godmother, who the one was working at the PGC and told me that they was hiring. Like she could have told anybody that, but she knew that I threw those parties, I would be good at this, and so the relationship factor, relationships are paramount. I can't really stress how important they are because there's really not enough words to explain to somebody how important they are. You know what I mean? When you got some relationships, you know, you're gonna always be all right as long as you make sure you nurture them. You know what I'm saying? They got to be. It's just like you growing a flower. Like you got to feed the relationships. I was having a conversation with Jason the other day, and we was talking about how we want to, make sure we learning from younger people and they can learn from us. It has to be a give and take type thing. You know what I'm saying? But you're not necessarily doing it to receive anything. But if people see that you're doing right and you're doing good and you're trying to help yourself, they'll want to help you, and your relationships will get stronger that way.
No, for sure, for sure. That's something. That's a key thing. I just started really picking up with like the last 3 years, and that is really helping me travel with things, man. So like low key, I would consider you like one of the Bruce Waynes, right? So people are like, yo, like what's that mean? So like as far as like Jeter is one of those Bruce Wayne types. Like a lot of people that I know that I've come across in the industry in the sense of the Bruce Wayne in the front, but you put the work in behind the scenes. You put a tremendous. You're Batman. Like people don't know. You don't do it to be seen. You don't do it for credit. You just really put the work in. So like, um, how'd you get that spark? Because of course there's other people that do what you do, but uh, you have a particular set of skills that makes you shine. So like, where'd that come from? Where'd that attribute come from with you?
I think for me, I think, all right. So if I had to take something from both of my parents, right? My dad is a dreamer. You know what I'm saying? My mom is a worker. So I kind of just felt like, and I've realized this more now that I'm older, that I've really just put both of their characteristics together and have become that. So I'm a
Okay.
dreamer and I'm a worker, and I understand that in order for you to be a dreamer, you gotta work to get to them dreams. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I never wanted nobody to be able to be like, man, Amir, he lazy. You know what I'm saying? I played sports too. So, and I used to be kind of good at football when I was young.
Right.
And, and I understand the team concept too. Like, you know what I'm saying? I understand like, you know, some of my best friends to this day were on my offensive line. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So I understand like, yo, I need you to do your part so I can do my thing and we can go get this W. Because
Nice.
to me, it's all about putting up the W's, but you don't just put up wins without losses and you're not like putting in no work. Like you even when you lose, you putting in work. Like so you
Mm.
don't take none of that for granted. Not even the losses. Like you don't take none of that for granted. So I kind of feel like, I was able to merge both of those things that my mom and dad have. And then, put my sauce on it too. You know what I'm saying? I came up with this term some years ago called being important, not famous. I
Mm.
ain't never really, what I'm saying, wanted to be, it's funny. I was having this conversation on an open platform on Twitter some time ago, and somebody referred to me as like the secret weapon. I never even looked at myself like that, but I kind of thought that was dope, but yeah, I kind of just felt like, man, if I put in the work, the people who know, they gonna know. The ones, you know what I'm saying? And that's all I needed. Like I didn't never need to be no more than that. So yeah, I kind of just felt like that's where everything comes from for me.
Nah, that's ill. That's ill, and that's one of the traits that I picked up earlier. And you actually, it's a tidbit. You mentioned your dad, right?
Yeah.
So I remember you told me a story, and that blew me away. So like, share with them how tell the people about that story, because to me, I saw like a creative spark there, like, and I was like that triggered something for me. So tell them what we're discussing and how that come about.
So you are you referring to my dad designing
Right. Yeah.
county seal? So my dad, brilliant man, right? Um, you know, went to Howard when he was probably like 16 or 17 years old. Like he designed the county seal in Mecklenburg County, in Charlotte, North Carolina, the largest county in the state or whatever. And he designed that when he was what? I think he was probably like 17 or 18. Um, and um, if you ever get a chance to Google the Mecklenburg County sign or seal rather, it still sits. It was on the police cars and all that stuff for years, but they took it off. I think it's on like it's definitely on the court building down there, and all the police officers that work in that court building, it's on their sleeves and things of that nature. Um,
Right.
so he designed that, some time, long time ago, and so me being the creative is like it drips right down on me, right? You know what I'm saying? Even my brother, you know what I mean? Like both of us are kind of handy with the pen, drawing and things of that nature. That's something I don't even tell people about that I know how to do. But nonetheless, yeah. So that's always been something that I can speak proud of. You know what I'm saying? When as far as my dad is concerned.
No, that's dope.
And
That's dope.
so I got some friends who teach in Charlotte, and they didn't even know, and then now they teaching their kids, their students about it, which I think is really dope.
Nah, that's crazy. That's legacy. That's one of those things that we all will want to do one day, right? We'll leave. That's something so small as a teenager that left like a lasting impression. You know what I'm saying? So like we know, well, for people that's joining us today, like we know like Amir's boy, like your calling card is like that hustle, that hard work. So like that fire energy. So like explain like what exactly is your title? What is your role over at Interscope? And about that journey, because a lot of people on here, they have artists, they want to submit music, they don't know how to get it to radio, or they might submit something wrong. Like, so tell us what you do, and like what's the best way for like a manager to go about getting their artist music played on the radio?
Um, so I'm going to answer the last question first. I think the first thing that managers should do, or things that the manager should do, is make sure their music is right. Like when I mean like mix and mastered, and again, this is, and then when you're talking about radio, like I wouldn't jump out the box, and if I was a new artist, I wouldn't jump out the box and go to radio. Like that's not what I would do. I would make sure my shit was, every DJ in the world had it, and then I would make sure those relationships I talked about earlier could help me get some play somewhere, and then I would have it on all the DSPs. Matter of fact, I would do that first in case somebody Shazam my song and they can't find it. There go I miss a check, you know what I mean, somewhere down the line. So there's different ways of that happening. But managers need to have relationships in all facets of the business, not just radio, not just DSPs, fashion, lifestyle, everything. If they're gonna be in this, they need to have all the relationships. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't gonna say, just make sure you got enough relationships that anything your artist is into, you need to be able to say, okay, so he likes this. All right, well, let me go find out who running this, so I can build that relationship with them, and we can try to help each other out. I think the other thing you asked me was my role at Interscope. So obviously me knowing radio and doing radio all of these years, I've kind of worked to a certain level. And, my first label job was at Atlantic back in 2005, I believe. Yeah, special ops. We worked both panels. When I mean both panels, rhythmic and urban mainstream panels at radio. Bad Boy, all of that, Young Jock, Boys in the Hood, Danity Kane, Trina. We had some of her stuff. At some point, Atlantic had 2 staffs, and then when it was time, they was like, if Tip put out a record and they wanted everybody to be on that, they put both staffs on that. Like, yo, y'all got to get this record. So that happened, and I left and went to Interscope back in 2007, I believe it was, somewhere around there. I forget, but left them and went back to radio to be a music director at B103.
Wow.
Did that for a bit, left them and went to Grand Hustle. To me, working at Grand Hustle was like the opening of it all, because I was able to be national. Up until then, I was regional.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to spread my relationships, gather more of them. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Prior to that, I was Atlanta. I was Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When I got with Grand Hustle, it was like, New York to Vegas to LA to, and it was a bigger, platform to move around in. Then we started breaking other acts, and that just made everything else cohesive. So my role at Interscope now is the Senior National Director of Urban Promotions, which to me I don't care nothing about none of them titles, as long as my check right. You know what I'm saying?
Word.
But however, it is good to have that, because that means you're ascending, right? And I'm on a wonderful team. You know what I'm saying? I got a team of people. I got 2 leaders in front of me, and I got a team behind me. But I don't look at it. We all a team. And we put up our numbers. So I feel good about that. I've worked at Epic Records. I've worked at E1 and Koch. I pretty much everybody has I've played some kind of role in doing a lot of things. But the radio portion now is, because I'm a senior national, that just means that I cover the whole country instead of just a region.
No, that's amazing. Like that's one of the careers. Like if I wasn't doing what I'm doing now, I try to find somewhere in radio, man. I remember I forgot what station we was at, and I was like so into it, like, yo, this as the legal copy at the end of a commercial on radio, like, oh, that's all they did, they just sped it up. Or like how they cut commercial breaks. That was actually real cool to me, because that's a big part of being a creative. But of course, I chose another path to that, and it's really cool that you mentioned about like how it went from like local to national. And I think the DNA of music is so strong, and like you said, like 2003, like the imprint now, like we're here from Grand Hustle. Like had it not been for Grand Hustle, I wouldn't have met you or Jason. I wouldn't be having this conversation. So it's kind of crazy how everything goes full circle. And being local, like, yo, being a kid from Jersey, and then being able to see so many parts of the United States and even outside of the country with somebody like you that was an intricate part of that success. So like, this is the tough part, right? So everybody here, I did mention that Amir is a vampire earlier. It's not a joke. This is a serious thing. This is one of the only 10 people I know that age backwards.
Bro, I got a couple of gray hairs. Cut it out. You know what I'm saying?
You got a couple of gray hairs. This is crazy, but I think like it's attributed to I ain't gonna play. I'm gonna say Amir's really 270 years old, but he doesn't want to tell anybody. But I guess wellness plays a part of that. So like, this industry is like very stressful. So like what are some ways that people could like get themselves mentally ready for this kind of, because everybody wants to be a part of it, but it's really a marathon. So what are some ways you stay healthy?
So I mean, I'm a runner, right? Even though I haven't run in a month, but I'm a runner. But I also, now listen, don't get me wrong. I wasn't always this way. I got type 2 diabetes from being in this business. Let's not keep it, I know where it comes from. You know what I'm saying? Wilding when I was, of age, right? But when I found that out, I had to change my lifestyle, right? So I think, and again, I wasn't always this way. I remember letting this business put so much pressure on me that it sped up my heart rate, right? I remember going through that. And I've also been in some really dark places where, I've dealt with some mental stuff as well. But I feel like, just like any other superhero, right? They go through something and then they become the superhero.
Wow.
Like they come out, I think maybe a couple of them, just came out super, right? But some of them went through some kind of metamorphosis and they came out as the superhero. So I feel like, all of those trials and tribulations are just adding to my superpowers. And you don't get those or understand who you are, your superpowers, or any of that if you're not at some point in your life uncomfortable. So so for me, it's been that, right? And I feel like you always call me a vampire or whatever, but I drink a lot of water. You know what I'm saying? I do some other things that keep me chill. And like I said, I get out and go run, or I ride my bike, or you know what I'm saying, I try to be a part of what's going on in this world and keeping my hands still in it. And for real, I keep God first too. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a bet. That means you always gotta keep God first. That's what moves it forward. And actually, while you were talking, a lot of messages as it came in. Some really good questions. We won't be able to get to all of them, but I'm gonna try my best to get to two of them.
okay.
So a really good one we have from Ed Doxson. Shout out to you, Ed. For someone with a diverse professional business background in HR, what advice would you recommend them to start, and in what city? I'm from DC, where the music scene is still growing, so not the luxury of LA or NYC, where record labels are. Record labels and things are a car ride away.
So I'm from there too, right? I lived on 453 Q Street, Northwest Washington, D.C. I lived around River Terrace. I lived around Southwest. I lived all over the city. And what I realized about my home is sometimes we don't understand the sacrifice, because my home, I love my people, but we already good. Like we got this ego that we cannot shake off. So even when I'm around my peers and I do stuff that they don't understand, that's helped me be where I am, I'll take we don't understand, or we don't know necessarily how to take an L where I'm from. We look at that as some other kind of, disrespect or whatever. But me, I understand if I'm driving a stick that I got to find reverse sometimes, or neutral sometimes, before I go back in the first gear or the second gear or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that's important. But as far as that, and that's the mind state. But as far as everything else, I understand the city too don't really have. That's not where, to me, the music business flourishes, because labels look over DC. They'll go in there for a minute, but they'll see exactly what I'm talking about, and then they won't come back for a couple of years. You know what I'm saying? So I think, but I also think and know this too, you got to be hot in your city no matter where you from. You know what I'm saying? If you say you from DC and you hot, and I know some people, because I know a whole bunch of people from DC, and I can pull up anywhere, and I find out you not hot, you know what I mean? So, knowing your market and understanding your market, this goes for any city. You're supposed to be working the markets around your city too. It's like a clover leaf. You ain't just like, it's other little markets around DC that you should be popping in. So yeah, I mean, that's the answer to that question.
That's dope. That's dope. So Ed, hope you got that. Shout out to you. There's still a few more questions. Hopefully Amir will stick around with us.
I'm gonna be here.
Yeah, in a Q&A box in there. There's some questions just started flowing in. I want to say thank you for joining us for real. Everybody that's joining us here on this Heavy Talk. This is not the last, but like I said, he is a Bruce Wayne type. So Amir will be back. As well as like the world famous photographer Jonathan Manuel will be back like for this masterclass series because it's so much to unpack. Thank you for joining us, and maybe you got some words for the people.
I thank everybody for being here. I thank all the homies that have helped me get onto this. Ryan, I've always felt like, what I'm saying, you was like super hella creative. You remind me of myself a lot. You know what I'm saying? I think that you way smarter than me though. And I appreciate everybody that's a part of this. This is dope. This is a community. This is what we need. This is what, shout out to Jeter for like coming up with this and everybody that's involved, because this is something that's a need for people to understand. Like, yo, you can't just wake up and say you're gonna be in this shit. Like, you know what I mean? I know Jason. We respect hard work over talent. So this is a chance for people to put in some work and learn from others. Like we learn from each other. So I appreciate everybody, yo. This is dope.
No, man, that's dope. Thank you for having us. Heavy crew members, thank y'all for joining us. New members, old members. Coming up next, we have Kirsten Daniel speaking with Jason Reddick. Stay tuned, y'all. Thanks.
What's up, Jason?
What's going on?
How you doing?
I'm good. I gotta upgrade my background like everybody. Everybody have the 5 background.
Yeah, apparently you must not be on Zooms as often as we are.
I mean, I am, but everybody just get this good great back door. You got plaques and
Oh, this is the aesthetic. I'm thinking.
I'm a man.
I'll get you right. Don't worry. So I want to introduce everybody to my friend Jason. Jason is a real friend of mine, like friend.
This stuff.
I don't even remember what year we met. It's been at least 8 years, 9 years.
At least, yeah. It was like when I first moved back to Atlanta in 2010. So it could be 10.
Possibly.
Yeah, when I first moved back in 2010.
Yeah, but Jason is a good friend of mine, and he is over at ASCAP, and he also has his own things going on. And what better person to talk to in this time than somebody who, not only is operating as a creative himself and, moving his own, companies, but also supporting other creatives. So Jason, I want to, a little background too. Jason is one of the people I think that I first started going out with and and going to Grammys by myself. Like we started to just be like, you know what? I used to always go to Grammys with Jeter, but I'm like, you know what? It's time for me to start going by myself and moving around. And so we really started to go and like, oh, yo, where you at? You going to this party? You going to Spotify? You going to YouTube? So we started to build those connections. And Jason is a person, he can get you in any door when it's time to go out. So always good to have a friend like that. We talk about networking a lot with the crew. So it's always good to have somebody that can move, because I'm not a person that's going to stand at a door for a while and tell you why I need to be in there or who I am. I'm just not gonna do that. But Jason and also Amir, shout out to Amir because Amir is just like one of my most favorite people to work with ever. Shout out to Amir. But those are the guys. They gonna move and shake. So make sure you guys have somebody like these guys on your team if you aren't that person. But yeah, I want you to kind of get started by telling us we are, people can see what your titles are, where you are, but I always start off by asking how people got into music. And I know that's a very generic question, but it kind of gives some context to what it takes, kind of some of the steps that people have to go through. You don't just land, where you bloom most of the time. You kind of take a while and a couple different routes to get there. So I want you to tell people, I know you were working with Team Epiphany, but, kind of give us a short answer. I know we don't have a lot of time as to how you made it into music.
I think I was blessed early on in life when I was around 16, 17. I got to meet a amazing lady. Her name is Yvonne. They called her Chris Kelly. She was a radio personality, amazing lady. And she opened my eyes to the industry because I had no clue about the music business. I knew the artist and you would see the people in the forefront, but you didn't know they were real behind the scenes people. And so she really opened my eyes to that and just planted that seed like, hey, you have this God-given talent and passion for it. You should pursue that. And that's really where my journey started of just having this relentless passion to figure out how to get into business. And, a few things I just decided to take different opportunities from. I interned at Disney in college. They had this Disney intern program. And I went there and learned marketing. And as soon as I was done with that, I went to my parents' hometown in Albany, Georgia, and I just talked my way into the radio station and started interning at the radio station and learning how to program records and actually picking records and things like that. And that was really kind of my first foray into the music business and saying, I'm in the music business. But then I feel like I really didn't get my stamp or start until I moved back to Atlanta and started interning at DTP. And going from NBA All-Star happening in Atlanta and moving people around and just paying my dues from helping promote parties with FCC, which is Keenan, CAC, and Taye, and just, working the front door, meeting people and getting paid peanuts, but building those relationships that are invaluable that you can't even put a price on right now because there's people, like you said, we know each other for like 10 years and you can't really put a price on having those type of relationships and friendships with people that you can build on.
No, you really can't. You really can't. You also, you kind of started with DCP as, as an intern, but you worked your way around and eventually you were working at Hot.
Yep. So,
correct?
Yeah. So after, I think it could be me. It's weird. The internet always decides to act up at weird.
Same. All good. Everybody's used to it.
But yeah, so after, a stint in New York, I moved to New York trying to figure it out. And I lived there for 4 years, just trying to, find my place in the situation, but wanted to invest in myself. Because I think that's what people don't always want to do is take the time to invest in themselves and move outside of their comfort zones. And so I felt like at one point, I just knew everybody in Atlanta and I knew how to move in Atlanta. I just wasn't getting the traction that I wanted in Atlanta. So I moved to New York and tried to figure it out there and learned a lot from that. And when I got back, I was working in retail. I was working at AT&T, just grinding, and then at night promoting parties and being in the mix. And eventually, I got the call because of my relationships to go to Hot. And it's crazy because I actually hesitated because it was like, I always felt like radio was like the stepchild of the music business. Like, I feel like you don't ever see like the people that are considered power players on Billboard Power 30 or Power 40 under 40 as any radio people for real, and I don't believe they're not there. They just don't get the same recognition that everybody else does. And so I was just like, I don't know if that's what I really want to do because I really have always wanted to start my own label. But then it was like after thinking about it and talking into my support system, it was like, nah, you should, at least do that because you'll get your real foray into the business. And that's when I can say I had my real first music business check because up until that point, I had a corporate retail job and I also was making marketing money, but I didn't have like a real music check that came out of music and helping artists do things. And so that was like my first real check. And from there, it even put a bigger battery in my back and just built on that. And how it was a great experience because I came in being able to bring my marketing ideas to the table, as well as the connections I already had, and being able to attack radio from a different perspective because I didn't come up like everybody else in radio. So I didn't have those like preconceived rules that you have to follow in radio. Like I had to learn the rules they had, but I still had my own ideas. And so I was able to really do some cool things in radio that people at that point weren't thinking about. So
And it's nothing like working birthday bash to teach you about
oh man, like I don't think even just people interning and seeing that part of birthday bash, they think it's crazy, but actually putting it on and booking the talent and the months that it takes to actually get to that point and the walkthroughs and the cancellations, like, nah, if you can do birthday bash, you can do anything almost. So that's definitely something that helped me today.
I believe it.
Those resources and experiences.
Right. And from there you've gone to now at ASCAP. Tell people, again, we have a lot of crew members here. Some of them are artists, some of them manage artists themselves. So tell them about ASCAP, just a little bit about it and what they need to do in order to register, or just kind of make your sales pitch so people can become familiar with why it's important, as an artist.
It's important to have a PRO, which is a performing rights organization. And so there's two types of publishing. There's your performing side of publishing, and then your mechanical royalty side, where you get paid from. And so you have to be registered with one of the big three, is what they call them. And that's ASCAP, BMI, or CSAT. And the reason why is because when it's time to collect the royalties from radio, from streaming services, from distribution, certain distribution channels, because they license the music to TV and film, we collect on their behalf, on the behalf of the artist. And so you have to be registered. The cool thing about registration is it's pretty easy to do. You just go online. You don't have to get signed or wait for somebody to reach out to you. You can actually go and sign up with any of the PROs that you want to. The thing is that everybody always asks, what's the difference? And to be honest, the difference when you look past just collecting royalties is just the relationships that you have with the people in the building. And that's with anything that you deal with, because at some point, a label is the same thing. They put out music, they press up things, but it's the relationship that you have in the building that makes your career better. And it's the same thing in the PRO, and the same thing in the publisher, in any job. It's the relationships that you have that makes the difference. And so I encourage people to go and seek out different people that work at PROs, figure out who you have the best relationships with, and then go from there, because we're considered an extension of your team. And so if your team is moving, but you feel like there's holes that need to be plugged, we typically plug those holes and help you out with our relationships and connections. So it's always good to have those, as many relationships as you can in the music business. It's always important to have. And some of the easier connections to have, especially your first connections, should be with your PRO.
And what is it that you guys are doing to help support the artists that are already registered? I know when I was interning, it was called a who's looking list. And that was a thing. I don't know if that's still a thing that people do. I know publishers send out a list of just what we need, but that was the name of a who's looking list. So what is it that you guys do to continue to engage with your thousands and thousands of creatives on your roster?
There's still the who's looking list, but you do have to kind of be locked into a publisher to get that. But because of the relationships that we have with the publishers, I typically get that information. So again, because of the relationships that I have, it's good to tap into me, because if you're a songwriter or producer, you might be looking for some direction, or you're trying to get a record placed, and that, I can potentially help facilitate that because I know who's looking, or I might know who's coming in. Like now, you have one of the biggest publishers, Sony ATV, coming to Atlanta. Well, I know pretty much the in and outs of what's going on, and I've already had conversations with the guy that's running the department. So we're going to start, doing things that are more intel to Atlanta and different areas that are surrounding Atlanta. But that is because that's a part of my job, is to build those relationships. And so those are some of the things we help support, like knowing who's coming into the city, knowing who's looking for records, possibly knowing who's doing writing camps, or where you should be on the calendar when it comes to releases. Like, oh, you might not want to release your record this time because this major artist and 5 other artists are releasing records. Or you should make sure that you have your paperwork right because it might be harder to get your paperwork done on the back end once the song comes out for this reason. And having those relationships and giving people the real inside information on how to properly handle their business.
Okay. That being said, that's really good to know that you're already starting to work with Sony ATV. What is ASCAP doing right now? The whole music business has been taken by storm. None of this is what we've experienced. We probably would have taken 10 trips by now back and forth to New York.
Oh man, I had to cancel so many flights. Like it was the worst.
So many festivals, so many conferences, all these things that we would have done. So obviously now everybody's experiencing, a new way of doing business. So what is it that ASCAP is doing to support creatives within this time period?
We literally have at this point now, every Tuesday, we've had some type of producer highlight, Q&A with an executive or a performance for one of our artists or producers or writers. Every Tuesday, people can tune in and see that. We have conversations with people so they can understand the process and know that this journey, everybody's on this journey. Like the business in the sense is reset to everybody is trying to figure it out now. Before you had levels and tiers of people moving, but like everybody now is trying to figure out the same thing. And so if you have solutions to any of this or anything that's remotely a semblance of an idea that could work, you're hot right now. And so this is the best time to figure it out and try to really implement some of the things that you might not have been implementing. So with that's one of the things we do with ASCAP. We have our actual expo, which is a conference that we do to support up and coming people and established people as well. And so we're doing that live. And then we're actually going to do our award show live where we're honoring people because a lot of times the songwriters get overlooked. Producers are, they kind of have developed themselves and marketed themselves properly now. So everybody knows a producer, but most people don't know writers. Sometimes a writer will walk in the room and you wouldn't even know it, but a producer walks in the room and you're like, oh yeah, I know so-and-so. I know his tag and everything. But a writer, and you're humming their song and you don't even know that you're sitting right next to the person that wrote those lyrics. And so, we honor those people and we give them, their flowers while they're still alive and do award shows. So we're actually doing a virtual award show to continue to honor those people and put them in the front so people will know who they are and they can get their respect that they deserve.
That's great that you guys are doing that. And also I wanted to just piggyback off that because just in the climate, that's the current climate, but more currently, we have experienced this great loss, one of so many, of Black men. And it's so tiresome, tiring. We are just traumatized and emotionally overwhelmed by everything that's been going on. And we've seen like a lot of the outcries from the music business because as we know, as everyone knows, the music business predominantly capitalizes off of Black talent and Black artists. So what are your thoughts with, the blackout that's supposed to happen on Tuesday? Is that something that you're participating in? Does ASCAP have your back when it comes to that? Just talk to us about, your particular practices and, just kind of trying to stand in solidarity with what's going on, in the business right now.
Well, I'm definitely participating because I'm here for anything that is for the advancement of my people. I come from a long line of people that have done some amazing things. My dad was like the first person in his high school of color. And so, I'm coming from that and I have uncles that have been to war and they're veterans and they've been a part of marches and things like that. And so I'm for sure about that. I know my history and I'm very in tune to that. And so, yes, I'm definitely participating. And yes, ASCAP does support that. I'm fortunate enough to have a strong Black woman who is the head of our department, and her name's Nicole, and she's amazing. And so she's all about that. And any conversation that we have, anything that we do from our department is always to uplift our people and always do things that is going to make sure that it makes us look amazing in the best light, and it focuses on all of our positive aspects and things that make us unique and amazing people. I definitely have to take a part of it, and I'm glad it's actually happening because most people don't even know it's Black Music Month that's coming up in June, and so those are the things that I think about in the future. Like, how can we use this platform that we're blessed with to actually help other people? And so, yes, I'm definitely standing a part of that, and standing side by side with my peers and doing whatever I can to help. Because I have kids as well, I have sons. Growing up, I always thought, man, I didn't want any daughters because I felt like girls, got to deal with boys and deal with the madness and craziness. But man, boys are actually harder because it's like, it's not even about them being in the house, it's about what happens outside of the house that I have to worry about, and their safety and concerns, because I've tried to create an environment for them to just be free and be creative and just run around. But like, I've had to teach them how to turn it off and turn it on. Like, sometimes you can't go in a room as big, bold, and loud as everybody else because it's just the way of the world. And until the world changes eventually, hopefully in their lifetime, they have to be more cautious and move and maneuver in ways that allows them to come home alive.
And what do you think about larger corporations? What do you think, Warner, Sony, what do you think can be done moving forward? Yes, we know June is Black Music Month, but how do you think, and it's a hard question because how do you change your business structure? How do you support Black creatives in a way that's not like, isolating? But what do you think? This is open dialogue. If you don't know, we can keep this conversation going, but
I don't think it's a matter of don't know. I know exactly what needs to be done. Is we need more of us in the building. The problem is that either people won't take the time to teach themselves how to be ready, so when the opportunity comes, they can be in those positions, or there's not enough people going back and teaching them. And even if you do go back, sometimes you go back and try to teach somebody, and they just don't want to. They don't want to hear it because they're trying to figure out how to get paid today. Versus, like Amir said, man, your first years in this business, you don't get paid. And a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. Like, a lot of people aren't like, oh man, I'm gonna do what it takes to go work this 9 to 5, and then 5 to 9, I'm gonna hustle it out and develop myself and mold myself to be an actual executive. So when the time comes, everybody's saying my name. Because at the end of the day, if 10 people are saying your name for a job, it's gonna be hard for somebody to turn you down and not put you in that position to be in there in the room. So if one of us is in the room, that's what we're fighting for. But we're actually fighting for 10 people in the room. Because if we have 10 people in the room, that's when we know now all these companies, it's not going to be the pressure of everybody saying, post something on social media. It's going to be actually putting out old catalog and returning masters,
Yeah.
masters to the actual people that owned them from back in the day and make sure their family can be taken care of, and actually putting on tribute shows that are tied into these people. Like, if there's more people in the room demanding that, the same way we're outside and mobilizing socially on the outside, we can be on the inside doing the same thing and supporting those people that are inside of those buildings trying to make a difference. But if you're one going against 300 people in a building, it's going to be hard. But 10 of you moving strategically and implementing things and bringing more people in, like almost like the Underground Railroad, if you look at it, like, we're working these connections and we're bringing in people here and we're bringing in people there. And before you know it, we're taking over departments, we're taking over companies. But it's up to us to invest in ourselves so that other people can start investing in us, so that way we can start investing in other people.
And I think what's also cool about most people in music, this is a music business conversation, is that we all have our own things going on to where we can support on a smaller level too. You have creative period. Talk to us about your artist, what you're doing. So you can, it may not be a corporate situation right now. Your partnership hasn't come. We're manifesting, but what are you doing to support your artists right now throughout this quarantine time? I know you guys are moving, you got some records that's working right now. What are you doing? What are your strategies, and how are you supporting those guys in this time?
Shout out we got Forte Bowie. He's still writing records like crazy. He's about to put out a new song. He's figuring out, how he wants to roll out his projects. We have First Lady of Creative Period, Chic. We're finally getting her stuff rolling. She has a new project coming out, rapper, amazing. She's in Florida recording now. And then one of my new people that I have, his name is Mo. He actually, he has a record called Out of There that's going crazy right now. And so it's just putting his stuff in place and helping him develop and get out his sound. He's one of the first people really coming out of Orlando that's looking to put Orlando on the map in a big way. Like he feels like Orlando should be respected like Atlanta is. And I've taken a few trips to Orlando and I've seen it, and I'm fortunate to have somebody like that I'm able to pour into and help paint the way. And then my young producer Hollywood Cole, who's amazing. I feel like he's really next, but again, it's putting his marketing in place and developing him as being a producer that has a unique sound that everybody wants to hear. And so those are some of the things I'm working on. And I still dabble with corporate brands and influencer marketing stuff and help point them in directions and connecting the dots and being able to really just put the right people in place, trying to get more people in the buildings.
Good. Do your job. Do your part. Do your part. Okay, so we have a few minutes left, maybe like 3 or 4. So I'm gonna get to a couple of these questions. If we can't get to all of them, guys, Jason will be in the comments answering directly. But the first one is from our guy Francis. Shout out Francis. Jason, how did you stay motivated as you transitioned through the gray area in your career before you got the call?
So I'm a person that believes whether you're an artist or behind the scenes person, you got to get out here and live so you can have a story to tell. And so getting out and seeing what's happening and knowing that everything I did or everything I've done continues to add worth to what I bring to the table, and knowing that I have a goal in mind that, that keeps me motivated, that waking up every day knowing, okay, I'm going to go tackle this particular thing so that when it's time for me to get the call, I'm ready to do it. Or, I got friends that are excelling. Let's celebrate them, because as I'm celebrating them, that's giving me more motivation to keep going, because, well, damn, the person next to me is doing it and we're doing the same thing. They got on. Okay, cool. I know I can get on because I do the same thing they do. As far as we're cut from the same cloth in our work ethic and understanding things. And so every time you see one of your peers, if you're real friends, you're excited for them, and that gets you excited and motivated. And so keep people around you that are moving in the right direction, because that's going to make you want to move in the right direction. And it's going to give you the energy and motivation when you can't find it to keep going, to figure it out, because you're like, well, damn, if my friend over here is moving and then I'm moving, we got the next person behind us and we can help them move. And then the person in front of us is helping us move. And you always also too want to make sure that you make the people that helped you look good. Like you never want somebody to put you on and then you mess it up. Like you want people that put you on just the same way Puff made Andre Harrell look like a genius. It's like, that's what you want. You want to be able to look back and be a part of somebody's lineage. Like, oh man, everybody that came out of the DTP camp, amazing. Everybody that came out of Grand Hustle camp, they doing it. Like, oh, I wish I was a part of that camp. Like, you want to be able to do those things. And so that in itself is motivating to continue to help people build their legacies as well.
Yeah, there's nothing more gratifying than, seeing the people that groomed you get to be able to work amongst them, and I
like, come on, be my partner now. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah. I'm thankful for Jason daily, because of the ability for us to work hand in hand after so many years of just good grooming. Same with Shaka. So then the next question is there any way to get released from your agreement with the PRO? I've tried to end my contract with BMI. They claimed I missed the submission date to end the contract. Anywhere around that?
As of today, no. You have to fulfill your window obligations. And so with ASCAP is 1 year, BMI is 2 years, and CSAC is 3 years. And so by law, you have to fulfill those terms. But with the new MMA Act, they're trying to reset all those things. And so there might be a way in the future, but today, you have to do that. And the way it works is it automatically renews. And so you always need to pay attention to your start when you actually signed up, because 6 months before it renews, outside of those times that I told you, that's when your window is to resign.
Okay. So drop your email for people that may have questions like that. And also, if you don't mind getting to some of the last 2 questions, because we do have to wrap, but I want to thank you, friend, for talking to me. We talk all the time, y'all, just about anything, everything, what's going on, what our opinions are. We don't always agree, but we have a great relationship and we hold each other accountable for our leveling up in the business. So it's an honor to always be able to talk to a friend as a peer and to be able to get some good gems from you. So thank you so much. We'll talk later.
I appreciate that. Shout out to the person, Jason Jeter, my guy. I appreciate everybody over there. Thank you.
No problem. No problem. I'm going to introduce next Jason Jeter and Sharifa Murdock because, first of all, I'm very excited for this talk. I've been a fan of Sharifa. Sorry to steal some of your time, Jason. Been a big follower of Sharifa for years since I started going to the trade shows and just seeing how things have developed and grown and how she's built her empire. And it's been very motivating and inspiring. So for those who may not be familiar with Sharifa, please get your notepad. Please get ready because, again, the gems will be dropped and she's just a dope person. So we'll flip it over to Sharifa and Jason now.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
so
you so much. What's up?
What's good? How you doing?
I'm over here in New York. Like, it's crazy over here.
Can you see me? Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay, cool. It's not registering on my thing. It's like I'm still muted. But nah, of course, New York, man, it's crazy. Ground zero to a lot of things now, right? Like,
yeah, we're going through a real rough period right now. I think the world is going through a rough period. So it's not only New York, you know?
The world is going through a rough period. It's crazy because I just think like, the last time I was in New York was the last time I saw you that week when we breakfast. And you think like how much has happened in the world through the course of, I guess maybe was that like 2.5, 3 months now, perhaps? Like
3 months ago. 3 months. It's like, I mean, listen, first off, we got to thank God that it could be worse for us. And we could thank God that we're on this panel talking to each other and listening to some amazing people speak. So I start from there. But the last time we did have lunch, we were talking about everything that was going on. And it was like, it was kind of chill. It wasn't as bad.
What we thought we was gonna go to the festival in April to the like, we thought we was gonna go to the cannabis festival thing out there, the flower
exactly. Isn't this crazy?
Crazy, of course I'm jumping on kind of late, so I want to thank everybody that came on prior to me. Of course, Kirsten, Ryan for holding it down. Thank you, Amir, my guy, Jason, of course, DJ Cuff. Thank you as well. We got Sharifa now, a conversation with Sharifa myself. Sharifa is clearly not from music, but Sharifa is a crazy, super successful person, entrepreneur that I highly respect, like Kirsten said, just your story. The story I feel like is really what it's about, right? The common denominators and showing people like these stories of success, and a lot of us, we think we're going to do one thing, we pivot into something else. But to me, since I've known you, like, I love the fact that like, you're an entrepreneur, you do it all, like you handle business with that smile, you know what I'm saying? But like a real boss though, and you're trying to inspire, of course, the next generation of young, females of color, even in particular, and trying to be a role model. And that's very important to you, So can you tell everyone, like, how did you get started? And then we'll get, because I know everybody's like, well, what did she do? We're going to talk about how she write checks in a little while. First, let's talk about how you got started a little bit first, though,
So, I grew up in New York, born and raised in Brooklyn. I was obsessed with fashion. I worked in a clothing store called the Atrium back in the day. Anyone that knows about the Atrium in New York knows that it was like the hottest space to be in. It was the first of the first, one of the first in-store boutique kind of different brand labels stores that kind of existed in New York, and it was built off of something that probably will never happen again in life, right? And the owner of the Atrium, who was my mentor, basically, I worked at other stores like other companies like Louis Vuitton, Donna Karan, all of these other properties, but he wanted to start a fashion trade show. I didn't even know what a fashion trade show was. I was 23 years old. And I remember him calling me because I was at Louis Vuitton at the time. And he was like, look, I want to do this thing. And I was like, what are we talking about? I was at Louis Vuitton and I was like, we could be buying tons of bags. We could be, this is what I was about. And then something just made me switch. It was like a flip went off and a switch went off. And I was like, I can either go do something else or waste all my money and time here. So ended up going back with him. We started our first trade show, and I'm going to say 2003 or 2000, 2003. And it was called Project. And I didn't know what I was doing. He gave me a list. He was like, call these people, tell them I want to do my show. So for all you guys who don't know what a trade show is, basically it's a B2B business, business to business, where the brands come and the retailers come. And basically they're looking at the fashion for the next season to come. So we launched it. It took off. I started it with 67 brands. And then 3 years later, the guy was like, okay, well, we're going to sell it. And I was like, what does that mean? You have to understand, I am a girl born and raised in Brooklyn. My parents are West Indian. They, we did not have that financial conversation. It was more like, you can hear me, Jay?
No, I was about to ask you a question. So did you go to school for fashion, or did you have any
So it's in my freshman year of school. I'm going to be honest. I went to school. My dad was like, you got to get out of Brooklyn. You need to go to school away. Yeah. So I went to the closest fashion school, which was in Rhode Island. It was called Johnson and Wales. My freshman year, I had a 1.9 GPA. My father was like, you either come home or you go to the Air Force. And I was like, I'll take home. So I ended up coming back home. And what I realized is I grew up with dyslexia. So it was really hard for me to focus. And I think that people don't pay attention to this. At least back then, they didn't pay attention. It was more like, it was hard for me to focus in these big mass classes. I didn't pay attention. I didn't understand what was going on. I ended up coming back to New York and going to a smaller school called with Toby Coburn. And that was in Manhattan. And I graduated with like a 4.0 GPA, but I only had an associate's degree. Yeah. And by the time that happened, I started Project. And it was like, what am I going to school for?
Living it.
So once that happened and we sold the company, I stayed on for 10 years there. And then he came back again and he was like, look, let's do another trade show. And I was like, not another trade show. I had enough. Yeah. But I learned really quickly the difference between entrepreneurship and corporate. I wasn't the corporate set girl. I was more of an entrepreneur. I love the nuts and bolts. I like the grind of it all. I didn't like the toilet paper method of the corporate business and just the politics that fall behind it. I would never tell anyone not to go into corporate because I took some key things from that, but I do know what kind of space that I like to work in. And then after that, Liberty was birthed. So Liberty was another trade show that we started, which we still have. And then we ended up buying a women's show called Capsule. And then we ended up starting another show called Cabana, which is another women's show. So those are the 3 different trade shows we have.
Yeah. So you brought all of these brands together. And you basically put on a big festival, so to say. For people, I'm talking music language. You know what I'm saying?
It's a big festival.
Bringing all of these. Yeah, exactly. I'm bringing a fashion festival together, so to say, with this trade show that's obviously been happening in Vegas, in New York. And you also travel all around the world. And discover or meet with new talent, existing talent. Of course, I'm watching you on in Italy and all these places when we were moving in the world. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. When we had somewhere to go.
Yeah, when we had somewhere to go. But to me, it's always interesting because here it is. That's something that I don't know anyone else that does this. That does what you do, Well, even more so than that, I know it's like a grand conversation because you're dealing with so many different people, so many different backgrounds, subcultures and people from different places around the world, and I can't help but see you, right? And I'm like, yo, this is a Black lady doing this. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I was always like, man, this is pretty interesting. Sharifa definitely got some magic tricks or something. How did she really juggle all of this for real? So to me, just how is that? How is that? I think that a lot of people, a lot of females, what do you tell at Event Fest? Of course, we'll talk about that. But what do you tell young females of color for real? Because they don't see that conversation every day,
Yeah, which is so sad. I feel like that's why I started Envision Fest, because I felt like I wanted to tell those stories, not only my story, but everyone's story, like the people that I know in the circle. I think it's just about having some sort of dream. I'm a dreamer, a huge dreamer. And I think dreams always turn into reality for me. I mean, I can tell you stories about like me buying my first property. It was like there's a building going up in Brooklyn, and it was like a high rise, a beautiful one. And it's kind of like the Jeffersons, you know, when you have those big dreams. I didn't have like 2 nickels to roll together. And I was like, I'm gonna buy that building. I'm gonna buy the apartment in that building. Right.
Yeah.
And that kind of person, I draw things out. I journal a lot. I like anything I want, I write it down, and I write out how I'm going to get it, what's the plan to get it, and all of that. So I think for young people out there, I say dream big, and I say believe in yourself and understand like nothing is unattainable. Like anything, you can do whatever the fuck it is you want to do. I'm a firm believer of that. I think that for females, it's a little bit different because we don't have so much push. A lot of us don't have the background to push. And when I started Envision, it was about pushing young women to understand that you need someone to kind of push you along. I didn't know I could do what I could do. Sam believed in me.
Yeah.
Right. And so it was like, I didn't never have a female being like, yeah, you could be this. Yeah, you could be that. So I vowed that if I was ever in a position to help and uplift young people, I would do the same, because at the end of the day, those same young people are the ones that's going to be taking care of us in the future. So, you know, it's just about a progress and being very open and being very limitless, basically.
Yep. Okay. So you worked with a lot of mainstream brands throughout the years, including
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton. And at what point, let's talk about the importance of representation in these spaces, right? Like Jason
Very
spoke
important.
earlier about, you know, record labels. Of course, it's the same thing. We always experience the Gucci thing. You know, there's always something every X amount of months, right? That another brand does that totally just doesn't get it, you know? And to me, of course, these brands are predominantly overseas, but, you know, everyone's your consumer. So, you know, be mindful. So, like, talk about that a little bit, though, you know, your thoughts.
I think so this word representation, I think, is overly used. I think that because we're going through these real sensitive times, people feel like they need to put that one token Black person, that one token Asian person. If you weren't doing it from the beginning, in my mind, it's just not for you, right? And I believe that, unfortunately, everyone isn't as open-minded. You know, I always use my business partner, Sam, because it's so sad of me because I've worked with him for years, right? So I only saw and I've learned what he did. Yeah. I could see any color person coming into the store and they'll ask him for a job and he'll give them a job. He'll give them an opportunity, right? But when we got into the fashion space more and more and more, what I did see was a lack of, you just said yourself, there is nobody that does the job that I do. Right. Yeah. And I am probably the first African-American woman to own a fashion trade show. Yeah. Right. And it's not spoken about. And because it's not spoken about in today's world, if it's not about you having 100,000 followers on Instagram, if it's not, then you're not relevant. Yep. You know, and I honestly believe the most relevant people aren't even on Instagram. No one cares.
What?
You know what I mean?
Shout out to Amir boy, my guy. He's still on. He has this phrase that is like incredible: important, not famous.
Yes.
It's like, come on, man. Like, I'm busy doing the work. I'm not, you know, like.
Nobody has time to take pictures of every step you make, every turn you take. Like, this is not what it is. And I just think that that's another thing that I need to stress to young people. I know a bunch of Instagram people that got millions of followers and living in their parents' apartment. Do you know what I mean? And broke as hell. So I just want people to understand, like, when we talk about representation, we need to represent ourselves, right? It's an interesting thing. We were having a conversation, of course, about what was happening in New York and all over the world, these riots and all the things that are happening. And this morning, this woman she was like, this is war. And I said, I understand that we are in a space where you feel like we are in war, but there's a difference between protesting and destroying your community. Mm-hmm. That's two different things. And she's like, well, you have to understand, they're broke. They don't have money. They really have nothing to lose. And I said, exactly. So of course you allow people to identify you with the same thoughts that they think of you in the first place is what you're showing them clearly that you're okay with doing. And you're destroying your community. Do you know what I mean? So when we talk about representation, we need to talk about representation in every space, in every avenue. It's not just fashion. It's in restaurants. It's in supporting each other. It's It's in having basic conversations and teachings. Like, I love that there's now social media, because now you have all these financial people going online giving free courses.
Yep.
We need to start teaching each other what everyone else knows.
Yep.
Because I think that that's where we lack, right? We don't support each other. So how could we expect somebody else to respect us and support us?
No, I agree with that last part 1,000,000%. You know, if we're not building together, you know, it takes the energy from within to spread beyond, you know.
Yes.
So you don't have that, like you said, it's like, if you don't respect yourself, why should I respect you?
Yeah.
Simple
And
as that, right?
when it comes to designers, I love to see, like, even like Kirby from Pierre Moss, he's been putting in the work.
Yeah.
Been putting in the work. So now when people come and they want to add that one token Black person or that, and we see it from afar, you know, we're not stupid. You can see it when you're walking down and you see maybe a campaign for whomever. You're like, okay, there they go. But if you weren't representing from the beginning, and you also should have morals about yourself, right? You need to understand what would you do? If you're going to work and you just want to get a check because you're in marketing and you need to make sure that one Black person, and you're not speaking up, then it's you too.
Sure.
And I think that it starts from us. It starts from us saying, and I know that a lot of us fear our jobs and we fear that we're going to lose it. But at this point, everyone done lost their job. There is nothing that they can take away from you. So now is the time to change your mindset. So when you don't see something happening, you say something. I don't do anything, Jason, unless it has purpose.
Mm-hmm.
If I see something, and that goes even in my office, if I see something happening that I feel is a little bit strange, you know, I'm going to say something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the quiet person in the room while they're like, so we need to be doing. It's just not me. We have to stand up and we have to show that we're knowledgeable. We're smart, just as smart, and probably smarter than half of the people sitting in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to show up. And until we start showing up the right way, we can't ask for representation, because obviously they're not giving it to us. And actually, we don't need to ask for representation. We just need to represent ourselves.
I agree on that part. I don't like asking for stuff much, for real.
No,
me
neither.
In any part of my life, honestly, like, I don't like to have to ask. Like, that's
exactly
not my thing. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not in the entrepreneur's trait. We takers.
No,
man.
but in general, society is like, you know, they're not showing us enough. We need to show us.
No. I know what you mean 1,000,000%. I know what you mean 1,000,000%. You know, and like you said, we got to look in the mirror and start from within and hold ourselves accountable. You know, So I mean, I agree. Of course, we could talk about that shit all week. You know what I'm saying? like for real, like we could talk about that all week, man. But I think it's the perfect lead in to. Oh no, I got a couple more questions real quick about retail that I want to ask.
Okay.
And then I want to get to Event Fest, because I think that's so dope. You know what you're doing, and that was the perfect segue into that, for real. But with just where we're at, what are your thoughts? You know, of course, you got your. You know, a lot of people on both sides, right? The buyers, the entrepreneurs with the boutique stores. How do you feel now? You know, what is the new way? What is the next way post-corona? You know, of course, a lot of people getting hit, a lot of people going out of business. You know, we have to make pivots and adjust. Things will not be the same anymore. You know, do you have any insight on that? You think?
Yeah, of course. I believe, listen, at the end of the day, what we're going to see is what kind of happened in 2008. We're going to see a bunch of the fluff go. So all the stores that we thought was so dope and had all the money, they're going to actually go out of business. And you see it happening right now. I think only the strong will survive. I think that the people that had a digital platform before COVID, that understood their community, that knew who their consumer was, I think that they're going to be okay. I think that a lot of contemporary brands are going to struggle, because a lot of the contemporary brands are older brands. And a lot of them aren't used to this whole new digital way. They didn't believe in it. They didn't want to deal with it. But now everyone's going to, unless you just don't want to make money, you're going to have to believe in it. Like, even for us as a business, we're pivoting. We're going on digital. Everything's going to be digital. I think we're honestly not going to see an event until next summer. That's my honest opinion.
Sure.
I think that it's irresponsible for me as a event holder to ask people to come outside when there's the disease that we can't even see. We can't even see it. And I just think that we also have to be mindful also of the however many thousands of people that lost their jobs. I want to also point out one thing. if you're going to spend your money, your stimulus check on whatever, I want to say shop, but don't overdo it. I think that, you know, what's important right now is the Lysol, the Clorox, the food that's in your house, the toilet paper, those things are important, you know. I just think we need to really start looking at things from a different perspective. I think that the adult people will start to save money more, I pray. And I think that, you know, the youth is who you're going to see shopping, of course, because they're spending their parents' money. And it's just about being very, very, very responsible, because we don't know when this is going to end. They keep 2 weeks in us to death. One day they'll be like, we're open. Then 7,000 more people are going to get sick, and then they're going to close us back up again. And especially now people are protesting. So all those people that are protesting, they're not theoretically social distancing.
Absolutely.
So all of those people are going to get sick.
Second wave's coming.
It's going to be a hard second wave.
Second wave.
And I just want us to all be careful out there and understand that, I want to protest and I want to be angry too, but you also have to be careful and take care of yourselves. Retail is going to still be, it's just going to be showing up in a different way. I do believe in stores, they're going to need more customer service. So I remember growing up in retail, it was more like we used to like get dressed up to go and shop, get dressed up to go and work on the show floor, because you knew people were coming in and you wanted to make all the money. And then it came this second wave where it was like, I'm too good to talk to you because I'm working in X store and I don't really need to talk to you, but you kind of do because you're a salesperson. I think it's going to rewind, and now the customer service is going to be needing to be hyped up so much, and you're going to need that from people.
And see, I agree with you 1,000,000%. I come from the same era where like, luxury is service. That's a luxury to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? You don't go and buy a Rolls Royce or a Bentley and get bad service. You know, like that's like, so to me as an entrepreneur, service is always everything, you know? So I think that unfortunately, that was a street where kind of, that computer geek guy, mentality wasn't really used to like socializing in the real world for real, you know, that brought that about. But I agree with you. It's like now, people have to be back to, like you said, being respectful and being conscious and accountable. Where I'm spending my dollar.
Exactly. That is the thing. Let me tell you something. I'm a firm believer. You can get me to buy anything as long as you got good service. Once I have no good service, I'm not buying anything. That's like just my rule of thumb. I'm huge on customer service. And that's from me doing events. I'm looking at the cleaning people. I'm speaking to them. I'm speaking to the customer service people. Everyone is important. There's not one person that's better than the other.
Nah, that's definitely something that I love about Obama. Every time you see the Obama pictures where he's like dapping up the guy sweeping the floor. You know what I'm saying? Like he's coming through, he doesn't just walk right. He's like greeting everyone in the room, man. Like and that's just real. You never know how things are, you know. So Event Fest. I know that's your baby. Like let's talk about that, for a little bit, because we do have a few female heavy crew members, and that's something that they may be interested in checking out even closer as well, So
Envision Fest is a love letter to myself. It's basically what I wish I had growing up and what I want to give young girls now today, so that they can have somebody to look up to. I used to get a lot of DMs, or I still get DMs like, hey, can you mentor me? Can you tell me your story? Can you do this? And I'm like, okay, forget me. I know a ton of other fly girls that could tell you their story, that have been places. So I formed this festival. I was going to festivals in like 2017, like every festival, Complex Con, this, that. And there was always this like link that was missing for me. And I felt like it wasn't the attention on the female. And I felt like I don't want to go somewhere and not like I said, I don't go and do things without purpose. I want to get knowledge from people when I go places. So I wanted to give knowledge to young women on what they want to do with their lives as they get older, and also put some music to it. So I called my girlfriend, Laura. Me and Laura came up in the industry together. She was in music, I was in fashion, and we would always meet up, and we would always be that token Black person or a Puerto Rican person, Hispanic person on a panel. And we were like, we want to do something together. So I called Laura, and she was like, yo, whatever you need. So she does all the music concert part. So it's a full 2-day festival. You have like shopping spaces, you have different things like that, but then you have a bunch of, like, it's programmed out with panels and all these different things. It's talking about sex. They're talking about anything you can think of. And then in the nighttime, you have a concert. So like we had like Danny Lay perform. We had Queen Naija perform. Like we had a really good turnout. The first time Lauryn Hill showed up. The first year Lauryn Hill showed up. The second year Fat Joe showed up. We were supposed to be in the third year in September, but we're going to postpone it until 2021.
2021. So what are you guys doing? Are you picking up online? Like how are you?
Yeah, we're gonna do a smaller platform online, but I just feel like honestly, it's not gonna feel the same. Like I think this is great, but I also believe that people are gonna they're gonna yearn so bad to be outside. They're gonna want
absolutely
something. So I'm praying
people yearning to be outside now. Let's be honest. That's why half the protests were like that, because people have been pent up. Like
exactly.
Outside,
first off, today it's like at least 80 degrees in New York, and the streets are full. Okay, at least in Brooklyn they are.
Yeah,
people are out. You know, but we're gonna relaunch again in 2021. But we're gonna do small events online. We already started. So like we do like an Insecure series. That my dude Ronnie runs with all the guys, and they talk about the Insecure show, and we do different things. So you can just follow us on envisionfest.com, and we have programming out through a zoo. We have yoga, we have all these different fitness classes, everything happening on the platform.
Yep. So okay, so I got a few questions from the crew members. My guy Francis, what up, Francis? Francis from Brooklyn too, actually. You know.
Oh, really?
Yes. Francis says, Sharifa, when you analyze a brand, what kind of stories resonate with you?
It needs to make me feel something. So, like, I need to know, what were you thinking when you were doing the brand? Is there like, what's the story? It can't just be a T-shirt brand. It needs to have some sort of background. I like to hear like, I research, and I love to know that people research. That's the biggest thing for me. I like to know that you research the brand. You know who your competitors are. I look for certain things as in style. Are you doing something different, or are you just repeating what someone else is doing? So that's the type of things I look for. But I love a story. I love a story. If it's your grandmother's this, or she inspired you because her, you know, like Ouija. Ouija has an amazing story from Brooklyn Circus. Like I love stories like that. So
definitely. Okay. Alfredo, he says, how can I pitch a brand deal with no background in fashion? I would love to work in designer suits.
Okay, so he wants to work in designer suits, but he wants to do what? Pitch a brand deal, or does he want to work in designer suits? Because there's two different things. So if you want to work in designer suits, I would say when this whole thing, matter of fact, while you're in pandemic mode, look up all the designer suit companies that you respect and love. Try to find some sort of, if he's a designer, find an apprentice that you can look up to and work with, and do an internship, because that's where you're going to need to start, and then go from there. But I would say while you're in this pandemic, do all the research now. Hit them up. People are home. People want to talk. This is probably the best time. No one can say they ain't get your email nor text, you know, or DM.
Somebody right now. Who owes me money?
You know what I mean? But nobody can say that. Like they want to speak. So I think now is the best time to start reaching out to people for whatever it is you want to do.
Yep, I agree totally. Tony Todd, he says, what are your thoughts on Hanifa's 3D virtual fashion show?
Oh, I thought that honestly that was really good. I think I was happy to see that she did it. I would love to see more. It's so funny you asked that question. I reached out to them on DM just saying this was amazing. I would love to see more, because I definitely think that whatever she's using can be used across the board in so many different ways. So I want to connect with someone over there. So that's a really good question.
Did you speak to anybody over there?
No, didn't hear nothing back. So we'll see.
We should probably talk about that.
Okay, let me know.
I know somebody else who knows how to do that too, just in case.
Oh, really? Well, no, we should talk about it, because we need. Yep.
And then the same time, Tony says, "Do you see that sort of approach gaining traction in the future?" Obviously,
yes, definitely. I think that there's going to be First of all, I feel like the pandemic happened at least 5 years too soon. You guys are going to be so amazed at the stuff that is out there. I've been looking at all these different platforms for what we need to use for fashion now, because, you know, obviously we're all in the house, but there's going to be such great technology that it's going to surpass that. It's just that everyone's now rushing to get things done. because this has happened way too soon. We weren't ready for this.
Yeah. Okay, one more question. Alicia Howard, she says, how do you feel about Africa being the next big trade center? Says
I think it's probably one. Yes, I definitely feel like it's a trade center. It's interesting that they asked that question. Friends of mine are doing an event out there. Well, they were supposed to do it this year. They're going to do it next year. Beautiful event, Butterfly Effect. That's shout out to those girls. They're going to do really great things there. I think that it needs the infrastructure. Whoever goes out there to do it, they need to do it right. What we don't want is a half-ass fashion event. Do you know, if you're going to go out there to do something, and I had said this to anyone that went to Ghana for Afrochella, when you go out there, understand this, you going out there for purpose. Don't just go out there to be in the parties and to get this, get the education on how you can help those people out there. When I went to Africa, it changed my life going to Ghana, because I was able to really understand like where I'm from. Look at how far, and I always say young people should all go, because when you see how they live, you're going to totally appreciate the stuff that we got over here. You know what I mean? I definitely think it could be a huge market for fashion. They just have to do it the right way. They have to.
I'm going to add on to Alicia Howard's question. So obviously she says Africa, but which country, city you feel like in Africa would be the place? Like, is it Lagos? Where's the place that it would have to happen at in your mind?
Could be, I think they should do it. They should do it like how I think the West Indies should do it. Every year it moves. I don't think it should just sit in one space. I think that one year a year it should be in Lagos, but I feel like you need to get everyone there. Like, you need to pull your resources together. I think it's kind of like trade shows, right? There's trade show over here. There's trade show over here. It's too much. If you're going to do this, do it the right way. You do it 1 year in Lagos. You do it 1 year in Ghana. You do it 1 year in another. Like, you move it around so that it has substance and everyone has the exposure.
Yeah.
And then it also stays more interesting and relevant. Like, me going back and forth to the same place, like it's brand new again to me, just doesn't make any sense.
Nah, I agree 1,000,000%. It has to be. Man, Sharifa, thank you so much.
No problem. This was really fun.
Yeah.
I love and respect what you're doing on here. So thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
For sure. Appreciate it. And I'll talk to you soon. And of course, everyone, I guess, you tell them your socials and how they can follow you.
You can follow me on Sharifa Says on Instagram. That's it, because I can't do anything else. It's way too complicated. And please follow Envision Fest as well.
Boom. Sharifa Murdock, important, not famous. Amir, I'm out the lights today, man.
Yeah, you got to. You better tag me. Yes.
All right. Later.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Okay. Later.
Days gonna come. 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 Days gonna come.
You are now tuned in with DJ Co.